Welcome back again. Got new lighting and a new potentially permanent background. We'll see. We're in a very experimental stage. I don't like how it makes my beard look. I feel like I need to groom my beard better. But that's not the point of this video. So, yeah, I'm hoping to make a couple big changes to the quality of this. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be a good challenge to up the overall quality of these videos, and I don't know, maybe make them a little bit more fun to create and mess with and stuff like that. Maybe get into actually putting thumbnails on these things and making them look nicer. Who knows? But the Monday ones are just free flow thoughts, so don't want to go too overboard, but I do like making things better. So we'll try with the new lighting, new setting. I like this background. I love the paintings. There's 4 paintings here. 4 is over there. So it seems like I'm centered, but I'm not. That's the center right there. Anyway, I digress. So, yeah, what am I musing about today? I'm taking tomorrow off for good personal reasons. Spend some time with family. So I rescheduled everything I do on Tuesday. Rescheduled or canceled what I couldn't reschedule. So my week isn't more busy, but it's busier in different areas and slower in other areas. I'm taking tomorrow off on Tuesday, which is I'm usually in office like 8 hours on a Tuesday. So usually 6 appointments, 8 hours in office with 2 hours of administrative and random do whatever else I need to do time. And then I do rehearsal because I do a lot of music stuff in the evening. I'm not doing that. So just taking a rare Tuesday off while not on vacation. That's super weird. So today was a fuller day of appointments. What's really interesting is, for me, I have learned that there's not a direct correlation between high volume of appointments and high volume of fatigue, tiredness, stress. Man, there's so many factors that go into this, and parts of this I've learned in the past and other things I learn more over time. So I have worked Mondays for the entirety of my postgraduate career. I actually can't remember during grad school. I think I was working Monday evenings. I was working during the day at a job that paid me, and then going to do clinical work in the evening to get my hours. So I think I've been doing it the whole time. Regardless, I've always done Mondays in some sort of clinical manner in my professional career, seeing clients. And when I was starting out post-grad, I did a lot of work all at once to do whatever I could to make money. And this isn't probably what I'm going to go into today, but paying off debt was a big deal. I don't like debt. If you know me, you will very much know that about me. I'm not a fan of debt. Don't really care how other people live their life, but I've always found that people who don't have debt are generally more financially happy and secure. And I don't like the belief that, well, you just have to live with it. So I'm like, I'm just going to pay it off, which sounds oversimplified and is to an extent. But anyway, so I spent as many hours possible working and as little extra money on anything at all. So I didn't buy anything. I paid rent and gas and groceries, and that's pretty much it, almost exclusively. And I paid my debt off pretty quick. Student loan. So what does that have to do with anything? I was doing Mondays about 12 to 13 hours a day. So if I remember, I would leave at about, I think I would leave at 7:30 in the morning, get to my office at 8, and then I would come home. I'd leave at 10 to come home, I think is how I would do it. So I know my last appointment of the day was like at 8, which means I would end around 9. And then usually whatever I got behind on for the day, I'd work on it. So I'd get home I guess I'd usually get home between 9:30 and 10, but I'd stay until the work from the day is done. So emails or notes. Some nights that would be like 11 or later, but it would be usually during the 9 o'clock hour, late 9 o'clock hour, I could get done and go home. And I'd usually try to get to the office around 8 and get started with whatever morning responsibilities I had. And then occasionally, I never had 13 hours of available sessions for people, but I would be willing to see people if there was like a needed necessary reschedule. So there'd be some days I had 13 appointments. For a while there on Mondays, I worked at an elementary school as a contracted therapist, and my first appointment of the day there, I believe, was 7:30. So I would work about, if I remember right, like 7:30 to 2:30, doing 25-minute appointments. So 25 minutes, then I get a 5-minute break, and 25, 5. So, I might do 8 appointments there, 10 appointments there, get in the car, drive a half hour to work. That would be my break for the day. Well, drive from one work and then drive to my office. And then from I think I'd get done. My last point would be at 2:30. My last one would end at 2:30. 2:30 to 3, and then my first appointment at the office would be at 4. And then I'd do a 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. So I'd do like 5 more. So, 15 appointments maybe maximum in a day. And then Sundays I worked the same hours. I didn't go to the school, so I worked like 8 to 10 Sunday, and then 8 to 10 Tuesday. And then I had a 2-hour meeting on Wednesdays that I'd go to, and then administrative work the rest of the 3 days. And then off Saturdays. So, I did long days, and that was not sustainable. I knew it was a slow burnout route, but I did it to make money for a little bit until I could slow down, which I got to do. And what's interesting, though, is that burnout felt different than working a Monday now, where I do 6 appointments a day on a Monday. I'm in office for 10 hours, but I only do 6 appointments in a day. And then today I had 9 appointments scheduled, of which I met 8 of them. The more appointments you add in a day, the more likely there's going to be a cancellation or some sort of reschedule or something happening where someone doesn't make it, your odds go up. So only 8 happened today. But I anticipated 9 because I didn't know that until later in the day that I wouldn't have all of them, which also meant my time in the morning that I normally take to do administrative stuff wasn't there. So I'm like, all right, it's going to be a fuller day. I'm going to be a little bit more nonstop, probably working late. This video is probably going to be up late, 9 o'clock hour, which, as a side note, there are probably all going to be up in the 9 o'clock hour going forward, as I'm setting up new, I wouldn't say a studio, but just a better system for recording. They're probably going to be up later in the day consistently now. Either that or they're going to be super early in the morning. I have not decided. It's going to be before or after work. So, but I knew stuff would maybe delay, and then I want to get more stuff done to be able to fully take tomorrow off. So, I'll do this. I need to go do a workout, and I'm going to come home and work for maybe like 2 more hours and hopefully get to bed by midnight or something. And also, I'm not a workaholic kind of person. I don't believe in just brag about how many hours you can get, and I believe more in just work what you need to work, rest when you need to. I'm taking tomorrow off. Hopefully that should balance out any perception of false grindset that I'm on. But so what I'm thinking, though, is just about how hours really don't make for any feeling. Time is not an emotional experience in the sense of time put in means this or that. So you think about clinical hours, right? If I have 12 appointments in a day versus 6 in a day, it's possible that I'm more exhausted after those 6 than the 12. And so, there might be a question of why. And some of that can be down to the actual clinical work itself. So I'm more likely to be tired a day that I work virtually. So the more online clients I have will probably exhaust me more. So I'm not just staring at a screen like that. And there's just less going on with the screen versus in person. it exhausts me more. I get tired, my eyes get heavier faster. And so that's a factor. But also, having a really stressful case versus a really joyful case makes a big difference. And we all know this feeling. I mean, therapists aren't exempt from having emotional experiences with their clients, right? So we've all had that experience where time flies hanging out with a friend. And we've all had that experience where it just feels like the interaction's never going to end. Now, that might be a little bit dramatic with therapy, but it also isn't. I mean, people have that experience as therapists. You might start to argue if there's an ethical concern of like, if you just can't stop looking at the clock for your client to leave. There's also more to say about the philosophy of being bored in session. I actually lean more the direction of if you're bored, it's your fault. As a therapist, it's not your client's fault. Not everyone believes that philosophy. But I think being bored with a person is a more reflection of your failure to engage with them properly than them being boring. And I don't mean that in like a condemning way, because some people really reject the interaction. You might be trying really hard and they're giving you nothing, and they know they're giving you nothing. So that makes it harder too, right? You have cases like that. So I'm speaking more in the realm of when you have a client in your office who's there because they want to do work and you're finding yourself bored. Okay, then I lean more towards like, we're probably just missing something as clinicians then, because that person wants to make progress and they're coming to you. Like, they're actually trying. They're not, when they're not forced to be there, right? So that's a question of like, what can I be doing better to make this more engaging and make this person more interesting? How can I make them feel like they're more interesting? How can I make them feel like they can engage well? How can I make them feel like there's actually some like optimistic steps that we can take? And that really is hard. And I fail at that every single week, but it's more trying to get better at that over time. And I like to think overall I'm better at it. And then sometimes some personalities are just more negative, and there's a lot of little factors there. But I've also had clients who I've had to fire for various reasons, and people who have been very like hostile towards me, and just cases that are very stressful or very demanding of my time in a way that goes against the boundaries I've set up. So I'm not like a crisis response therapist. I'm not a therapist that works in active litigation. I'm not a therapist that works in high conflict crises in general. I've done all those things, and they're just not my preference and my forte. There are some therapists who are very gifted in that and like it. And to be fair, I do fine with it. I do well with that work, but it's not the work that I want to be doing right now. And some of those just add more stress than I like to engage with. And what's interesting about those types of cases, and for other people they might be different things, but we usually don't experience the stress isolated into the time frame of that session. So my appointments are 45 minutes. A really stressful session does not last for 45 minutes, especially if you know it's a stressful case that you're working. You'll feel the stress building as you get closer to the case, the hour starting. In the actual time frame itself, you'll feel it during it. And then there's likely a residual period as you calm down and come off of that emotional experience. And if you have a case right after that, you have to go to another session immediately after, you very likely won't have enough space to pull down and remove yourself emotionally from that experience. That 15-minute, and I do 45-minute sessions. Some people do 50. And that's assuming you end exactly on time. So we'll assume you don't, and we'll assume most people are doing 50. And that case goes longer. You're looking at less than 10 minutes to calm your nervous system down and to calm your mind down. If that's a client that activates you in any way or triggers you in any way, you have to work through that emotionally. Good luck in 10 minutes. And it's possible in some cases, or you can get good at compartmentalizing, and now you have to do that at the end of the day versus right then. For sure, those are possible, but these things are they're hard to do. And then like imagine that was like your third appointment of the day out of 12. And then everyone shows up and you don't even have an off hour. So it's like a blessing and a curse for some people. So it's just an interesting thing. And this is why it's really important, I think, for a lot of clinicians to really be mindful of their caseload and to not take on clients for money, for just money. Now, that might be ironic because I said I was doing that before, kind of. I never said yes to someone just for money. I'll always say no if it's not a good fit. But But I think what can happen is if your focus is money, you start to take on cases that you shouldn't. And that's the issue. So since I've paid off my debt, I feel way more confident in the cases I take on. It was always hard to filter out, what work to do and who to say yes to and who to say no to. Because if someone says, yeah, I'll pay your full fee, but your gut says, like, this isn't going to be a good case for me. I think I'm going to be stressed and this is out of my scope, or I think this person or one of these family members is going to cause a lot of problems for me. But you're like, but they want to pay the full price. Or maybe they say they need to meet twice a week and you're like, yes, I absolutely need that. And you just say yes because of money. And one of the best tools, and I give this to everyone I work with professionally, well, a lot of people anyway, we're talking about money, is asking them, if money wasn't an issue, or for graduate students, if your hours weren't an issue, would you still work with this person? If the answer is no, then, our motives might not be where they need to be. Now, at the same time, if you're a graduate student and you really don't want to work with trauma, that's not your thing, but your university was like, guess what? The only site left available for you is a trauma center, and now you have to work with trauma, and every case is stressful. I mean, good luck finding a case that you're going to like. So sometimes there is an element of that where you do work you don't like, and I think there's a weird ethical line there because, I used to work at Barnes & Noble, which I loved doing warehouse work there. Super cathartic job, just packing stuff up and shipping it or receiving stuff, and I loved having it. I'm a super analytical person, so I'm like, I love knowing we have 20 copies of this, or this came in, or these didn't do so well, and they're returning all this stuff. I loved it. It was very relaxing to me, and it was a job that didn't add stress to my life, and it was a job that I could show up. I knew what to expect. I didn't get paid a lot. I did do it for money, but I also liked it. That job wasn't soul-sucking. But a lot of people have jobs where they're like, this drains my life. And then you do have to ask yourself, is that a worthwhile experience to be doing? Is the money actually worth it? And then sometimes we get stuck in situations, and I see this a lot with students as well, where it's like you got to show up and you got to do your hours. And so one of the main point I was trying to make with Barnes & Noble that I just totally slipped with is gosh, where was I even going with that? Look at that. Caught me raw with my second time forgetting the route that I was going with that. It'll come back to me. So anyway, doing clinical work that you don't want to do. Oh, the ethics. So if I show up, if I show up and I don't want to do the work, that's not going to hurt anyone by me having an attitude to myself internally and being pouty about the work that I'm doing. I had to say that so fast because it was going to leave my brain again. I can show up to Barnes & Noble with a bad attitude. Now, I can get in trouble if I express that to people, but I can kind of be pouting around as long as I'm doing my job well. I was warehouse. Keep that in mind. I was not customer service. And I can pack the stuff up and send it. And at the end of the day, I'll get paid the same. And I might even get the same good job, regardless of how I'm doing. Now, I had a good attitude, and that carried over to people, and I had good interactions with people. But in theory, I can have a bad day. Now, if you're doing clinical work and you're having a bad day and you bring that into your client, you're going to actually do a worse job. So I'm probably not going to do that much worse of a job in the receiving department of Barnes & Noble if I'm having a bad day. Slight caveat, I do argue that the better you're doing, you'll do better at everything, and the worse you're doing, you'll do worse at everything. So I do think, for everyone, you'll perform a little bit different based on your attitude and your personal experience for the day. But regardless, I can show up totally different each day and still get by. With therapy, again, this goes back to the ethics of do you keep doing the work when you're not up for it that day? No is the answer. And there's a line for that, and every clinician has to decide that, and your colleagues have to be willing to tell you when they don't think that you're in the right headspace. So if you hate all the work you do and you're showing up, I guarantee your clients are going to feel that. Now, if you're always like that, they might just think, oh, that's just my therapist. They are like that. But it isn't. You're just being a little pissy about it, right? So it's so important to have the right caseload, and it makes your day totally different. And I like the people I work with. That's really important for me. And there's always, ones that are frustrating, or people you like will be frustrating, or you'll have, even a difference of view on something that's hard at times, or logistical things. Sometimes like payment or scheduling can get frustrating at times, but everyone I work with, I believe to be decent people and have no intention of like being mean or screwing me over with stuff and wasting my time. And I don't intend to that for them either. So even if things are frustrating from time to time, there's an understood positive will. There's always things that go south that you don't want to, but I work hard on the relationship side of things. And I haven't always had a caseload like that. It was definitely hard in the earlier years where I had to make money to pay bills, to pay off debt. And I vividly remember the first month that I made enough that I felt comfortable. And that number is different for everyone. But I remember making that income and thinking, like, I'm okay. Like, I can do this job my whole life. Like, that was kind of the feeling. Like, I'm okay. At the time, I was single and not married. And, there's expenses with families that are different. But being single, having one roommate, I hit that number. And it was like a really comfortable number. I'm like, yeah, this is fine. And that goes up for me with marriage and hoping to have kids. I know that number is going to go up, and I might be falling below that comfort level, but I just remember the feeling and being like, yeah, I'm good. And anything extra can just go, more towards retirement or a house or giving it away to people and stuff like that. Like I have everything I need at this point. So. Man, there's so much to say about the right caseload, and then also making enough. So also the right caseload means you're being paid enough, means your hours are good. So you might love all the people that you work with, but they're all paying like a third of your fee, and you're in office 6 days a week, kind of all over your schedule. That's not a good caseload. The people are good, but the actual the cases on paper, not good. Everything that they bring to the table for you. I think you need that perfect combination. You need to get along with the client. It needs to be okay with your budget, and it needs to be okay with your schedule. And that's also true with the other person. They need to get along with you. You need to be okay for their budget, and you need to be okay for their schedule. If either one of us is flexing on that too much, we will feel tension and stress when whatever one of those pieces starts to bend a little too far. So if I say yes to someone at a fee a little bit too low for me, I might not like them coming all the time, or I might wish that they weren't my client sometimes if there was too little money, and that would be my own fault because I said yes to something I shouldn't have said yes to. And if I really am working with them at a lower price, I need to be confident that I can afford that, and that's okay, and I want to do it. And if I can't do that, then I shouldn't be saying yes. Same with that person. If they have to be to work by 10 a.m. and I'm a 9 a.m. appointment with them, and they're like, well, that gives me 15 minutes to get to work. It's about it's a 10-minute drive, but we don't always end right on time. I have to get to the car, and if there's traffic, and they can't even focus because they're stressed in the session. Like, am I going to get to work on time? My boss is a stickler about being on time. If we get too emotional today, I don't know if I'm going to be in the right headspace to go to work, and I don't want my boss to see me with tears on my face, or if I have to redo my makeup at all because of crying or whatever. Like, I'm not a good fit for them for their time and their schedule if it's causing stress to be there. A situation like that, it might be like, okay, can I do an 8 a.m.? Can I meet you at 8:30 maybe? Even 8:45, 15 minutes difference? Can we meet on a different day? So sometimes we can negotiate that out. And even sometimes like personality mixes can be negotiated too. That's a whole different topic about when you bring stuff up to clients about personality butting heads. People have a lot of different thoughts of when you bring up opinions and how you feel about people in session, but a lot of these things can be worked through and some of them just can't. So it is both ways. Like, every party involved has to make sure that this works. So that gets more complicated with families as well and couples, but it is important. You don't want to be working with a system that doesn't trust you and doesn't feel like you have their best interest in mind. Yes, you're a business, but the businesses that I like to partner with in my life are ones that I feel like care about me. I like those businesses more. Every doctor I go to, that's important for me. I change doctors a lot. I try new ones out, and I'm like, you're numbers in, numbers out kind of person, medical model through and through. And I have a couple doctors that I go to that I'm like, I actually know you care about me. And I know you need my money. And that doesn't mean that you don't like me. Same with the car place that I go, where we get our car serviced. I don't have a personal relationship with them, but I always feel like they actually care about what they're doing, and they'll shoot me straight about stuff. They're not trying to screw me over, from my perspective. Same with other places that I buy from. And you get this a lot with smaller businesses, not exclusively. There's a chain that my wife and I go to for doing like body scans, health scans, and stuff like that, and getting some of our nutritional stuff. And they're a chain, and the people that work there, I love them a lot. They're pretty awesome. And that's a chain, but the people in there, it feels almost small businessy, like they feel very welcoming and encouraging. So and that works both ways. And I would never expect a free thing from them, and I would never expect them to give me discounts. And they conveniently cost a little bit less, but I'm willing to go there even if things I buy cost more, because they're very kind people and they're very good people to my family. So that makes a difference. It works both ways. And so that whole relational piece is very important with business. And I think some people use phrase like, it's just business, so this isn't personal. Yeah, to an extent, but at the same time, the relationship aspect is personal if you choose to let it. So if I charge someone a late fee at my work because they cancel late, and they can choose to get upset, but it is my policy, and they know it's my policy, and they get upset, that's fine. But this is something that we agreed on. I said it explicitly at the start that this is what I do. Now I can choose to be cold about it, and they say, hey, I have to miss today, I don't want to get charged. I can be like, well, you're getting charged, you shouldn't have missed. That's a rude way to say it. Or I could try to have a conversation with them, explain my policy again, and be like, hey, look, this is the policy. I don't enjoy charging these things, but this is important. This is how I provide for my family. This is the time slot that you reserved, and you let me know an hour beforehand that you can't make it. Like, I have a long my cancellation policy is not a tiny one. I have a bigger one, so even someone letting me know in a day and a half beforehand is still getting charged. And I make sure they're okay with that before we start. And then if I have to remind it, I try to do it softly. I value the relationship. If it's damaging, I do what I can to repair and connect with them. And you know, if there's ever times where exceptions can be made, I try to do that ethically when it makes sense. So the relationship matters, even if I have to enforce the business side. And it's usually with money, with people, right? Like scheduling, people get it. If I say, hey, I'm sorry, I don't work these days, people are usually more understanding. So our society gets a little bit interesting with money. We get a little bit more opinionated, but relationships are a really, really big deal. So all that's to say, I had a longer day today, and I loved it. I loved all the faces I got to see and the people I got to be around, and the sad and joyful feelings I got to experience with people. I don't want to do a longer day next Monday or anything like that, but this one was good because there are good people that I work with, and they work well with me. They work well with, we work well as a team, a therapeutic team, me and my clients, and as well as students that I was supervising today and people that I was talking to at work. Like, relationships are hard and they take effort, but it is kind of like the backbone to, that might be too dramatic to say it's the backbone to everything, but kind of like our relationship with everything makes a big difference. So, that's what I got today. Happy Monday. If your Mondays are stressful, consider the day before the hours and consider what might be actually making that stressful. If you're interested in therapy services in Missouri and Kansas, I can help you out with that, either working with me or getting you connected with people I'm really close to. If you need therapy services and you're outside of those two states, you can still reach out to me. I have a lot of friends, I know a lot of people, and I have a lot of ways to get you connected. So anyone who would benefit from therapy, reach out. The email is in the description, and I'm here to help how I can. This channel is small, so I have time to respond to people because people aren't commenting and taking up my time. So get in while it's easy. So love all you listening. Can't wait to see you next Monday, and we'll be seeing how the setup looks, lighting this week, other things next week. So thank y'all, and I'll talk to you later.